A mind is a terrible thing to waste. It's synonymous with the United Negro College Fund, which raises monies to grant college scholarships to African Americans. Since its founding in 1944, the fund has raised more than $3.6 billion, which has allowed more than 400,000 students to earn college degrees. There are lots of ways to bring in money, and on Saturday, August 26, you can join UNCF's second annual Fifth Walk Run for Education in Prospect Park. Joining me for a discussion about this upcoming event is Lisa.Banks, Area Development Director for the United Negro College Fund. Welcome to BK Live.
Thank you.
And also, it's Vice President of Development and Northern and Midwest Division, Fred.Mitchell. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
This is a second annual event. But before we get to the event, I want to go into some background about the United Negro College Fund. It was around since 1944. And who was the person responsible for bringing the United Negro College Fund?
Well, the United Negro College Fund was founded by Frederick D. Patterson and Mary Bethune-Cookman. They founded UNCF in order to help, at that time, 27 black colleges ensure that they were able to raise funds and provide an education, college education, to African Americans who at that time had nowhere else to go.
Lisa?
Yeah. And so founding the UNCF then, as Fred mentioned, allowed for students who didn't have the opportunity to have equal access to education, then to be able to go on to school and be able to be on even ground with and compete with other students who've gone to other colleges.
Right, and back then the United States, especially back in the 40s, was heavily under segregation, Jim Crow laws and that sort of thing. So these schools were created for that reason only. And right now also there are 37 schools or more?
Yeah, there are 37 private historically black colleges that UNCF supports every year. And when we say supports, that means that UNCF provides those institutions with general operating funds to help them cover their costs and make sure that they're able to continue to provide a quality education that many of them have been doing for more than 150 years.
And especially 150 years, a lot of these schools are celebrating their 150th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many that will be celebrating or have celebrated their 150th anniversary at this time.
Because
yes.
they were created after the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865 when Lincoln so-called freed the slaves. All right, tell us about this event coming up next month, August 26th. Last year, it was held in Roosevelt Island, but why did you move it to Brooklyn?
Well, we moved it to Brooklyn because Prospect Park is a wonderful park. It's a park that has lots of space. We also wanted to re-engage with the Brooklyn community. UNCF, of course, has been around for 73 years. UNCF at one time was actually headquartered in New York. But we wanted to re-engage and encourage the Brooklyn community to come out and support UNCF and let them know that UNCF is still around here in New York and still working to raise dollars to support students. In fact, we supported about 50 students from Brooklyn with a little more than $200,000, a little under $200,000 over the last year.
Lisa, also, who are some of the folks participating? I know there are a lot of celebrities coming out.
Oh, yes. Well, first, I would like to acknowledge Senator Kevin Parker. He is also responsible for us having the opportunity to hold our second annual 5K in Prospect Park. But we do have a couple of celebrities. We have, I call them the dynamic duo. These are two dynamic women who have had an impact in sports as women. We have Kim Hampton, who is a former WNBA player for the New York Liberties, and who is now a jazz vocalist and a philanthropist. So we are greatly appreciative for her joining as one of our ambassadors. And then we have Colette Smith, who is also dynamic. She used to play for the New York Sharks as a defensive
Back coach.
Back coach,
right.
Yes. And now she's currently hired as the New York Jets
defensive back coach.
Exactly.
That's right. That's
and for the one of the first women that they've hired.
Sure.
So both of these women have had tremendous impact in history.
And
in
a
sports.
Tuskegee grad.
Exactly. Yes.
You got to put that in
yes,
there.
for sure. We've got to put that in there.
Right.
Yes.
Now, when you look at the UNCF schools and the HBCUs, like Morgan State, where I attended, Grambling State, those schools, what is the difference?
The difference is the UNCF schools are private colleges, very similar to Yale or Harvard. They're private institutions. that work to raise their monies, one through tuition, as well as fundraising. Grambling, Morgan State, Southern are public institutions, and annually their budgets are fixed by the states where they're located. That is the primary difference. Environment-wise, they're all very similar. I like to say, as a graduate of a HBCU,
Which one?
Clark College or Clark Atlanta University, the Panthers. I like to say that you can step on any HBCU campus, and while it might be different, the environment that a young person walks into is going to be the same. And that's why these schools are very, very important, because these schools, no matter which one, offers an environment where a young African American or others can get a quality education in a comfortable, nurturing environment and come out with a great education.
Right, because I also remember when I was in school, I had a chance to anchor news on WEAA, Morgan State's radio station. You had a chance to be a student government president. Not saying that you couldn't do it at other schools, but you had more of an opportunity than those schools. And also during that time, there was also a move to maybe, I should say, drop some of these schools from existence.
Well, I think that is probably more the case with the public institutions, as they are part of the public state budgets. But all the schools, in honesty, have their issues, but all are doing extremely good work. And UNCF is important for the private institutions because UNCF raises money to make sure that they have the dollars to continue to provide a quality education.
On a global scale, how is UNCF outreach?
UNCF on a global scale does its work by working with corporations, foundations, and of course individuals. That's how we raise the dollars that we need to raise in order to support the schools and the students. As I mentioned earlier, just here in Brooklyn alone, we've been able to provide just under $200,000 to students right here from Brooklyn. On an annual basis, we give out $100 million in scholarships to students all across the country, not just at HBCUs, but at over 1,100 colleges and universities. You mentioned the amount of money UNCF has raised in its 73 years, and the number is actually $4.5 billion to help students and HBCUs.
As we live in a global village now, as some folks say, and where do you see the future of UNCF?
Well, definitely continue to do the work that it's doing. I mean, because we've made a great deal of progress in terms of high school students graduating, but this disparity is still there, so the work is still important.
Because some folks say, hey, you know, there's no reason for these schools anymore. You know what?
Well, there's always going to be a reason for historically black colleges. They will continue to provide an opportunity for those young people who might not do well or fare well at a majority school. As I said before, these are schools that provide a very, very nurturing environment, good quality education, and allow a student to blossom. Where a student can go to a HBCU, gain their footing, and by the time they come out, they can be a star.
August 26th, Big Saturday,
August
right?
26th, Prospect Park, United Negro College Fund, Walk, Run for Education.
Thank you for coming. And if you could keep a Notre Dame and a Catholic University, man, got to keep a Howard and a Morgan and others and Clark.
Exactly.
All right, thanks for coming.